MK Oliver, welcome to the Conversation Coffee Break.
Hello there, it's fantastic to be here, thank you. Well, it is a comic thriller and it concerns a character called Lala Rook, and she is a very stylish North London mother, very aspirational, trying to do her very best by her children, trying to get her husband up the corporate ladder. And it was just that match of this tone that looked at the positive in everything, you know, this wonderful suburb, these wonderful floor-to-ceiling windows, and this dead body. And it was that that it was in first person, and that tone really is what sold it to me. It was just her voice, her lack of emotion, lack of guilt, lack of fuss and worry over things that would absolutely, you know, put any of us into a sort of crisis mode.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible. It's a privilege to be published, and you know, I just want to continue to do the writing, and that's really what keeps you centered.
MK Oliver, welcome to the Conversation Coffee Break.
Hello there, it's fantastic to be here, thank you.
You're welcome. Like, we've already established that I may start calling you Oliver. That is your name because you have a pseudonym.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna ask you a question before we get on
Yeah.
to the main questions. How much thought did you give to your pseudonym? Not the Oliver bit, obviously, but the MK.
Well, Oliver was easy because it was my first name, and obviously I wanted to recognize myself when people said my name. But MK was going to be the initials of my mother, who died around the time I was writing the
Oh.
book. But no, it's a positive thing, you know, just in
Yeah.
her memory. But then I put that through to the publishers, and they said, we've got too many of those initials, you have to choose another one. So in the end, it ended up meaning very little to me. So it's just a pseudonym.
I think it's like, God, I always say we go off on a tangent. It's like Michael J. Fox. I don't
Yeah.
think J is even his. He has a middle name, but you had to call him. You had to call himself Michael J. Fox. There was already a Michael Fox with like
Yes, for
the
the
writers,
equity or
the
whatever.
Actors Guild.
Yeah,
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 America. So he
yeah,
called himself Michael J. Fox,
yeah.
and it's
So
like,
yes, it's
okay,
just entered. It's
it's
just
just
entirely random, those letters. You can make them stand for whatever you like.
okay. First question: can
Yes.
you tell the listeners about your book, which is
Well,
called A Sociopath's Guide to Successful Marriage?
thank you very much. Well, it is a comic thriller, and it concerns a character called Lala Rook, and she is a very stylish North London mother, very aspirational, trying to do her very best by her children, trying to get her husband up the corporate ladder. And to all intents and purposes, she's very similar to all the other aspirant mothers in her London suburb, which is in Muswell Hill. The only difference is she is what could be described as a sociopath, not the medical definition, but the popular definition of a sociopath, in that she doesn't act with rage, but she acts without empathy, without guilt, without shame, and very practically. So if she wants something out of the world and it's not being given to her freely, she will find a way to get it. So when her daughter, for example, isn't accepted in a school, she might, for example, take a hammer to a meeting with the head teacher. She doesn't tend to use it, but she finds that in her world, simple, subtle threats are enough to open doors. So she is a sociopath. I suppose the book has been described in different ways. It has the kind of domestic landscape of like Motherland or Big Little Lies or even Desperate Housewives. And then it's got the rather devious, scheming, and at times psychopathic heroine of How to Kill Your Family, or you know, even My Sister the Serial Killer, and books like that. So it's a bit of a mashup of the domestic and the sociopathic novels that are very popular at the moment. But yes, it's also got a wide cast of characters. She's got her friends, her competent and incompetent husband, and a character who is who everyone who's read the book likes, and that's her daughter, who's about 7, but is very much a mini version of Lala. So a young girl who's got some of the same tendencies as her mother, which makes for a lot of amusement. So well, I'll stop there because you have other questions, but that
I
gives
do.
you a sense of what it's about.
I have a random question, which
Yeah,
is just,
go on then.
what age group were you teaching?
Secondary.
Secondary. Oh God.
So 11 to
I only
18.
say oh God because I think
Yeah.
back what we were like in
Yes.
secondary school. But you know, you're talking about Lala's daughter who's like
Mm,
a young, she's a young version of her mum.
yes.
Do you think you're able to spot the sociopath with the students?
With children. So yes, name some no,
I don't name any.
no, I'm joking. Um, and I think absolutely not. I think you know, you know, a novel like this is a comic version of reality in which,
Yeah.
things like, antisocial personality disorder is not actually used as a name or device in the book. Is actually, this is about popular culture and how we sort of
Mm,
think about people who go to extremes. In schools, you just remember delightful individuals. I mean, I can't think of a pupil who I didn't in some way sort of admire, and even when they're difficult or going through difficult stages and patches, you see the individual in there. So no, I
yeah.
don't. I think you try the opposite as a teacher, to not label and not put into different groups, because it's so easy to do that, isn't it? So I would say no. They were all
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, it
exactly.
goes back to, even when like, when I was practicing law, and one of the things I learned very, very, very early on is just not to make assumptions
Mm,
about people. Like, I'd have
yeah.
in the early days when you're just fresh and brand new, I'd have, like, a cliched view of what a person being arrested for possession of
Mm,
firearms would look like, and then I'd get to the police station, and I'd meet them, and I always said there was a time when I had a client charged arrested for possession of firearms, and I just thought, "She'll be like a typical gangster's mole." Just
mm,
that's the image, and I watched too
yeah.
much I watched The Untouchables too many times, so that's the image I had in my head,
Yes.
and when I got here, I always say she looked like my gran. I thought, "So,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this is not what I expected."
And some of the, I mean, I think in the book, the characters, when the child Nellie tries to get into schools, and she behaves a little bit inappropriately at times, it's the characters who label her and judge her who I think are the negative characters in the book.
Mm,
So actually, I think the book is about being allowed to be, yourself, even if you are
yeah.
very different from those outside, and around you.
Yeah. Okay, so what came to you first? Was it the character, a specific scene, the overall premise, or something completely different?
It was the opening scene, and the opening scene as I wrote it, almost immediately has stayed almost the same, which is, remarkable really, given how much
Ah,
else has changed. So, um, I've always liked writing, and one day, after we moved back into North London to Muswell Hill, I was in the kitchen in the morning, talking to my wife and thinking about, you know, what I should write about next, what sort of killer should I have, and she just said, "Well, I haven't seen any sort of Muswell Hill mothers being murderers." So I said, "Okay, give that a go." So I went into my, you know, into the back room, and just started writing this scene in which, I started off with the location, Muswell Hill, writing it a little bit like an estate agent would. You describe in that sort of language the setting, the beautiful
yeah,
house, and then in the same tone, a dead body. And it was just that match of, this tone that looked at the positive in everything, this wonderful suburb, these wonderful, floor to ceiling windows, and this dead body. And it was that tone, that it was in first person, and that tone really, is what sold it to me. It was just her voice, her lack of emotion, lack of guilt, lack of fuss and worry over things that would absolutely, um, you know, put any of us into a sort of crisis mode. She just
yeah.
thinks, "Oh dear, how
Just
do I cope with it?" And that's the opening scene. She, stabs a man to death in the front room, and then, continues on to, to run a birthday party for her 4-year-old son. So So that's it. There's a dead body in one room, and she's doing this lovely middle class party in the back room with her son. And then it's that mix of the, I suppose, the normal, the everyday, the kind of,
Yeah.
life that some people live. And then, of course, in the background, there's the dark secret that she's hiding.
I you talk about the estate agents, and
Yeah.
all I had in my head was,
Yeah.
"Lovely hardwood floors." And then you're
Yes.
like, "Oh, there's blood on it."
Yes, exactly. It's exactly that. And once you get into that, you want to, narrate the world like that because it's quite
Yeah,
amusing.
it is. Oh my god. Alright, so which character surprised you the most whilst writing?
Obviously, the main character, Lala
Mm,
Rook, that's her whole being, is that she's surprising. She masks everything. So, as far as her friends see her, she's a normal mum. She might be a little bit intense at times or a little bit focused, but she's a normal mum. But when I was writing her, I wasn't sure what she would do or how she would respond. So she surprised me in every chapter. She just would do things in a way that I didn't know was coming. So that's what I loved about
yeah,
her. She said things that I thought, "Oh god." And that's a lovely stage of writing when you've got a character in your head and it's going sort of almost so fast that you don't realize you're involved in the process. Because obviously, maybe I made it up myself, but it feels like it's just happening. So she surprised me a lot, um, because she was, in her own way, more caring than I thought she would.
mm,
But the other character who I liked, who was surprising and is probably surprising to readers, is a very downtrodden character, a character called Kate, who's recently separated from an abusive husband who's got a restraining order, and she's really you know quite a depressed character. And Lala then treats her terribly. And so you expect in the narrative for to get a character like that, someone picks her up. But Lala, no, this is an opportunity to use this person. And what surprised me is the way Kate responded to what is essentially tough love, not being treated as a victim at all, but being treated just
mm,
as anyone else. And she didn't respond to it as a victim. She responded to it in a really positive way. So that really surprised me. That
yeah.
actually she didn't become worse. She actually lent into the um, criminal identity that Lala managed to inveigle her into. If I don't want to give away too much, but
No, no,
there you
no,
go.
no, no, no. You know what I love about those moments when you say
Yeah,
when characters surprise you? I always say it's like they get stubborn.
yeah.
So they're no longer doing
Yes,
what you
yes,
had planned for them to do. And I always say I had an image of, like one of my characters of Henley, and I had
yeah,
her I literally had her in the car, and she just was like, "I'm not going. I'm not going because I
yeah,
would not do this." And you're like, "No, but I have planned." But you
yes,
could see the stories going off in a different way, so her character you're basically seeing more sides to their
mm,
personality.
yes, and
So those are cool moments.
yes, yeah, it's what you really write for, isn't it? Where
Yeah,
it's sort of you're not fully in control of it. Your characters
yeah,
feel like they're alive to a degree.
yeah. I've always described you wanna get in that moment of writing where it feels like I don't know if you drive. But
Mm,
if you drive to a familiar place, that
yeah,
sometimes you just do it on autopilot. You're like, "Hold on,
mm,
1 minute I was at the petrol station,
yeah,
now I'm home.
yeah,
Like, how did I get here?" You
yeah,
kinda
and
want those moments.
it's deeply worrying as well because you
It's
think,
concerning.
yeah, but it is the kind of flow state, isn't it, where
Yeah.
you just let your skills and your memory etc to take control. But yeah,
This is so cool. But how do you feel about this new chapter in your life? Because you were a teacher before, now you got all these exciting things happening. Your debut's coming out, TV
yeah,
rights have been sold.
yes,
I'm not if I'm not gonna repeat the language I used when I read that bit in the PR bit. I was like, "What? Oh, bleep. Wow,
yeah.
that's amazing."
It's absolutely incredible. Everyone who's written, you just want the book to be published, and that's the most
Yeah,
important thing. And I always go back to whatever the noise out there about a book. It's a privilege to be published, and I just want to continue to do the writing, and that's really what keeps you centered. Because everyone knows as much noise as any book can have or whatever it sells for, you never know what's going to happen to a book once it hits the world. It can,
no.
die a death. It can do very well, and it's a very random um, and kind of precarious market, isn't it? So you've got to
Yeah.
enjoy the pleasures when they come. It's nothing like schools. Schools are structured in to the second, every single period of every
Yeah.
day, what you're doing, and know what you're doing 3 years in advance almost. Um,
Court is the
writing
same
is
thing.
yours.
Like
Law is the
in
same.
the
Yes.
criminal
Yeah.
law, yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know when I knew what I was doing literally
Yeah.
like 2, 3 years
Yeah.
in advance because trials are being booked. So you
Exactly.
know.
In writing, I can be, you can be in your pajamas at 11 a.m. having done 200 words and think you've achieved something amazing. So it feels, as a writer, for me, as a former, head, you don't feel like you're achieving a great deal because, you
Mm,
have to earn those words every day and they take a lot of time, but you don't have a lot to show for it really. Um, but it's joy. It's a joy not to
yeah,
have those structures, but it takes some getting used to having the freedom and having to structure your own time. But yeah,
yeah,
that was go on.
no, it's not gone.
No, I was just saying it's you also get far fewer, I suppose, far less contact with other people, and you realize
Mm,
whether you're a social person or not, you actually get a lot out of that contact with other people. So the only other thing I would say is, for writers, whether you are the best thing I did as an unpublished writer was join groups and get involved, and it made me write differently just speaking to other writers because you realize all your concerns are concerns that everyone has, and you just begin to professionalize slowly. And then you
mm,
also just have that contact with other people that you don't have a lot when you're spending sort of
yeah.
hours a day writing.
I thought I would, like, revel in it, like, it would be jumping into a really nice Caribbean sea. Like, that's what I
Yeah,
thought when I stopped going to court and it was just the
yeah,
writing, but then reality is like, "No, I need people.
yes,
I
yeah,
really need to be around people because you need the energies." And he said you're picking up things as well, like how I'm not saying well, I suppose you are. You're stealing people's attributes when you're
yes.
using them in your book. So you need to be around that. Not
Mm,
every single day maybe, but at least maybe like 2, 3
mm.
times a week. You need to go out.
Yes, and but it's also lucky, right? Because we've got the social media and
Mm,
everything, things that you're doing, the podcast, it's quite accessible, isn't it, to
yeah.
get the insights of other people, to connect with other people. It's easier than ever to do that, and you have to just
Mm,
be to lower your, I suppose, lower your acceptance of embarrassment. So just
yeah.
do stuff that and worry less and get out there a little bit more.
You know when you did we are gonna carry on with the questions, but you know when you did your courses, the
Yeah.
Curtis Brown course and the Faber course, do you feel like it prepared you for this part of the author life, or just all about just getting the learning the craft and knowing the craft?
Yeah, nothing was about this part because it was all
No, there isn't, is there?
no, nothing. It was all about I suppose it was all about, getting those first 3 chapters or 50 pages, it was about
Yeah.
getting the attention of an agent, and writing a query letter, shaping your chapters in the right way, but nothing was about the business side of it and what that felt like. There's no not that I'm aware of, there's not many courses that do that, probably because it's quite presumptuous, if you're unpublished. But no, you just learn on the hoof, don't you? And
Yeah.
everyone in the industry, everyone you meet from your agent and editors and all the marketing and publicity people, they're all just so lovely and help you out. So it's not difficult.
Mm.
It's just you do learn on
As
the
you
hoof.
go.
Yeah, you just have to be open to that.
Okay, so Oliver, what's the most random fact you now know because of this book?
Um, well, I did a certain amount of research on concrete. It's not the most interesting. How quickly it dries, what you can put into it, whether it will undermine the foundations of a new building if you were to put in a kind of 6-foot piece of organic matter into that concrete.
I love
Um,
this question. And I love this
and
answer.
and whether the chemical structure of concrete actually gets rid of DNA evidence and things like that. So I mean, you must have done all of this, all of the, all of the research into how do you move a dead body if you're on your own. How do
I
you
do.
what's the cubic meterage of different vehicles? Because you're trying to work out what you can carry in the boot. And
Do all of that.
yeah, Yeah, you've got to work it all out, haven't you? You've got to
Yeah.
think through how, because, you know, I've never done that, you'd be pleased to know. So so you have to work it out, on your own. But, the most surprising fact, actually, of the book, of the research, was the house prices in Hampstead. Now, when you're
Oh,
looking on Rightmoves or anything, you actually limit yourself because you put in your own price structure. And
yeah.
then you get the impression that the whole world is within your own parameters. You take that limit off and you look across to places like Hampstead and you see a semi-detached house for £10 million, and you just, like, your mind is blown that what you thought was expensive isn't even close to being the most expensive. So that was the most surprising fact at all, just how much money you could spend on buying a house in somewhere like Hampstead.
I did that. No, I did that twice. Once with the binding room, and I've done it recently with the book I'm writing now.
Mm.
And again, it's about taking yourself, okay, this is my budget. This is what I would spend.
Yeah.
This is how much I would expect.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, let me remove the limit. And you're like, how
Yes,
much? For
exactly. It's
what?
crazy.
Where? And I spent a lot of time looking at white vans and
Yes.
sliding. Oh my God. And the sliding door mechanisms so I can
Yes.
get the terminology right. Oh my God, it's crazy.
No, but the terminology, it really matters, doesn't it?
It
Getting those
does.
little words correct.
Yeah, I can't just call it the runner thing.
Yeah.
So I've had
Yeah.
okay. I know you said you've written before, so was this book harder or easier to write than anything you've written before, and why?
Well, I think the thing you don't know when you're writing your first book is just how much easier it is than your second book. So the second book is just, terribly difficult for all kinds of
Yes.
reasons, I think. Just because, I don't know, you're second guessing everything and it feels like
Yeah.
too similar to your first, or et cetera, et cetera. Um, so that bit, actually, in retrospect, it was a lot easier because you were doing a lot of the book having not sold it, having not,
Mm,
having to think how people, you were just enjoying it and running at it. But then once it's sold, once you get in touch with editors, you realize that writing is a process, and you start with the creative bit and then you go through several versions of editing. But the most difficult thing I think about it was I was writing in a first person female voice. So that was
yeah.
hard. Um, and I started out with various voices. But you know that line from Succession, don't know whether you watch Succession, but there's that lovely line, when Kendall comes back from, his, exile, where he says, um, "I saw their plan and my dad's plan was better." And, the voice
Yeah.
in the story was just like that. I didn't intend to write only in her voice, but her voice was better. It would just worked better than anyone else's. So it was a challenge to continue that. But I think the thing that, made it work for me was simply that, I wasn't writing her interior life because she didn't have access to it herself. So because she was, character who doesn't have emotions in the same way as, other people, it was slightly easier to get into that first
Mm,
person voice.
yeah. You don't get what my editors puts in my comments when she's doing my structural edit. But how does Henley feel? I don't know.
Yeah,
Henley's not a
yeah,
sociopath, so she has to feel something.
yeah. So,
Okay. Without giving away any spoilers, did the book end the way you originally planned, or did it surprise you too?
the answer is both. I think, the thing that surprised me about the ending, because you always worry about the plot ending,
Yeah.
um, the plot ending kind of stayed the same, but the character endings, as in how the characters felt about that, how they responded to it, that changed a lot and was actually much more important than the making sure the plot ended in the right way. So
Mm,
so the plot stayed the same, but actually finessing how characters reacted to the ending. And it isn't just about the main character. It's, well, I hope all the characters in the book, all the main characters have an arc and end. So you're looking at how all of these different people involved in her life end emotionally, because they'll all end in a certain way, in terms of reality. Some will be affected in different ways. But actually, I wanted a book that ended with us knowing how they all felt about the ending. So that changed a lot,
Yeah.
um, to just try and get that right. But the plot, yeah, that stayed the same. One strand, obviously, there's always the case, isn't it? One strand just flip-flopped back this way, then that, then this way, then that, until in the end, I decided to end it both ways. So you have to wait till you learn how to resolve some of the problems. So yeah, there are thorny issues that occur, but yeah, the emotional ending is the bit that I think really matters when you're reading a book as
Mm.
well.
You never want, even if you went on a cliffhanger, I always want, like, I want the reader to feel like, "Oh, there's more," but I don't feel like, there's anything missing.
That's
That's
quite
what you
hard to
want.
achieve, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, where you're giving them finality, but saying, you know, continue to be curious.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, did you ever hit the wall when writing this book, and how did you get past it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the wall every day, don't you? You hit the wall. I think
Yeah.
if you're writing, you hit the wall before you write a word. That's your first wall. Can I get through that? Then you hit the wall because every day it seems to me you only have a certain amount of fuel to write, like, and
Mm,
you use it up. So you imagine you could write for 8 hours, but actually, I think most writers find there's a certain word limit that they get to, and they just can't do anymore. So you hit that wall, um, and then that's quite easy because you just wait for the next day when you seem to refuel, your brain
yeah,
recovers. Um, but writing the whole book, there's obviously that wall that you hit when you come out of your introductory, maybe 30,000 words, and you just think, great, what next? And you look to your characters for help, and they look to you thinking, you really ought to know where we're going from here. And you think, I don't know if I've got enough. And that's about learning to write, having enough, not ending all the elements of the book, and having enough propulsive energy to push you through the middle part of the book. So I think that is a wall. But in the life of Brian, there's that scene where Brian is desperately trying to escape and climb over this impossible wall, and then we see the person he's with just walk around the sides of the wall. And I always think walls are like that. They seem insurmountable, but actually, it's often perception, isn't it? Um, so you've got to find a way to not think of it as a wall. And I would often, if I come to a blocking point, I would just go, oh, that's partly because I'm not interested in that bit. I'm going to skip round it to an interesting bit and just find the interesting scenes. And when you went back, then that scene was easier to write. So just walk around them and continue writing would be my advice.
Are you a pantser then, or are you a plot? I never normally ask, but are you a plotter?
Yeah.
'Cause 30,000
Both.
words. Oh, you're both.
Yeah, I mean, I have a plot and then I just, you know,
Right around it?
ignore it, and and just think there's two different things here. But no, I start with the plot and plan out, and then it goes in a different direction. But I need
Mm.
some kind of sense of where it might end.
Yeah, I always call it, I said I plan. I
Yeah.
always plan, but I always refer to it as a safety net. It might just be a
Yes.
mental
Yeah.
thing, so I don't feel like I'm so, like, anchored to it and I can't deviate from it. But I always find that it's that 30,000 word, it's that moment when, if for me, that's when I realised I was a planner, 'cause there was a book that I was working on, and, I had a character called Nick. Never forget poor Nick. And to this day, Nick is still sitting in the kitchen waiting for me to do something with him because I got to 30,000 words and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah.
I don't know where this is
Yeah.
going. I don't really know
Yeah.
what it is. And it's because for me, I didn't have a fully set plan.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that can happen, can't it? It's very
Yeah.
sad for those characters that are
Poor
left
Nick.
in limbo forever. Poor
Think for
things.
about a good 10 years.
Yeah.
Bless him.
You need to remember that guy.
I know I might have to resurrect him, put him in I might put him in this book. Okay, so, Oliver, what are you working on next?
Yeah, well, Lala Rook Further Adventures, really. As you mentioned, there was interest, TV interest, when I sold, or my agent sold the book.
Yeah.
And in those discussions, they would say, as well as saying awesome a lot, which isn't, I thought that was a stereotype, but no, it's like everything was awesome
And
in those
wonderful. You're
conversations. Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. And that was nice. But the other things they said, apart from always saying, um, how is this novel undeniable? That was the main question. And the second was, does this have serious potential? So that was all they were interested in. Like, we're
Wow.
interested in something that has serious potential because that's probably the most profitable TV to make, I imagine. I
Yeah.
imagine it's to do with profit. So that makes you think immediately about the series. And I did think
Mm.
she had more to go
Got
herself.
legs.
Yeah, I thought, "Oh, this character, I like being in her head." And obviously it's difficult to write um, the book 2 of the same series, but I did want to be in her head more, and I think there's more um, adventures for her in slightly different settings. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm working on now, her next adventures, and I've hit the wall with that, but I'll walk around it
You walk
as
around
best
it.
I can.
Okay, so Oliver, what message or feeling do you hope readers take away from the book?
Difficult one, this, because it is a story about someone with sociopathic tendencies.
There is
So
that.
someone who acts without guilt or shame. But I don't know if this is true. So it'll be up to readers whether they think this. I want people to feel empowered. Quite a lot of people in the world spend too much time second guessing themselves, too much time on
Mm.
guilt and shame, too much time being allowing themselves to be passive with people they shouldn't be passive with. And so, although what Lala does is obviously not to be followed, her spirit of not standing down in front of people who might want you to stand down, and not allowing guilt or shame or too much empathy to define how you can live your life. I want people to take that away, and it sometimes it needs an extreme character to allow people to see that side,
Yeah.
and that they can be stronger and more determined and more focused than they currently are. So I hope there's a sense of empowerment.
I
And
like that.
if there's not, I hope they enjoy it. I hope they have a laugh and enjoy the humor.
Yeah. I've thrown in 2 extra questions before we get to the end, which
Okay.
you are not aware of. I was like, "No, I need to know." So, this is just like a practical question. Oliver,
Yeah.
do you write in silence or is there something on in the background?
So both, I mean, sometimes I write in silence, and then if I don't, I listen to the same albums repeatedly. I don't, because then I don't hear them. So I would just listen to
Yeah.
the Cowboy Junkies, who's, I don't know whether you know them. They're an old band now, but it doesn't really matter which band. It's just a band that's so familiar to you that actually it just sits in the background
Mm.
as sort of almost like as just that noise. Sometimes when I'm writing in a public place, I'll put rain sounds on my
Yeah.
phone, which just sort of, I don't know, pushes out the rest of the world. But
That white
if the
noise,
world
isn't
is
it?
quiet, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. If the world is quiet, then I'll be in silence. Yeah. How about you?
No, I need something on.
Really?
I do
Yeah.
sometimes. And I say anything because at the moment it's, LBC. Listening to people who really shouldn't be on the
Yeah.
phone calling in. But as you said, it's just on in the background. And other times and also it depends what I'm doing, like what I'm working on. So the other day,
Yeah.
because it was kind of like some kind of like an action scene. So I put
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer on. And
Yeah.
again, it's just on in the
You're,
background. I'm not really taking it on.
mm,
But I can't work in silence. But that's not to say there haven't been occasions where I don't know, the Wi-Fi goes out, so the Alexa's not playing and
yeah.
the playlist finishes and it's suddenly silent and I'm still going and I'm like, "Oh, I wrote in silence." But my first instinct is to put something on.
Yeah. A sort of
Mm.
theme music to that
Yeah,
scene. Yeah. That's
yeah.
quite cool.
And then next question is, I like to call it now, are you morning pages? So do you get up early and write, or are you an all-nighter?
Yes, early, quite early.
Yeah.
It was sort of, yeah, sort of 5 o'clock this morning. So
5?
yeah, nice and early. And that's from that. I think that's
Is that from
from,
school?
yeah, from having to write. I always tried to get an hour's writing in before I had to go to work. So I'd always try
Yeah,
and do that. And it's also a very peaceful time, isn't it? No one else is around. You feel like you're winning the day a little bit,
you
and then
do.
by you know, if you start writing at 2 p.m., I'd be useless in the afternoon. I couldn't
I'd be
write.
rubbish. I've never been from. I can always pinpoint it to uni, and one of my brothers, is a year younger than me, so he was always a year behind. But in terms of our like study stuff, he's the all nighter. Like he'll be up
Mm,
4 o'clock in the morning
mm.
doing work, like uni work, and me, my brain shuts off at 10 o'clock is the latest I could push it. But I'm trying to join the 5 a.m. club, but the earliest I've started so far is 5:45.
That's good.
It's good.
Yeah,
I'm up and I'm out the house doing my walk by like 6:20, but
yeah,
this morning I was like, "Can I do 5:30?" So
yeah.
tomorrow I'm gonna try and see if I can do 5:30. And finally, to end our coffee break, which book, film, show, or video game do you recommend?
There would be too many, wouldn't I mean,
Really
in
are.
this genre, things that have inspired me, you know, My Sister the Serial Killer is just
Mm,
fabulous. How to Kill Your Family is fantastic. And anything by Katie Brent is great. These are all books that look at this female anti-heroine really, and
yeah,
that type, and but they're all done in very those three sort of writers all do it in very different ways, which is inspiring. um and then just because, you know, you want to support debuts, three debuts I enjoyed. One which is sort of a school setting, which is Sarah Harmon, which is All the Other Mothers Hate Me, which is about not a psychopathic character, but someone who is gets into trouble around the school gates. To do with the revenge side of things. I don't know whether you've seen the recent series, The Revenge Club, but that's based on a book called The Othello
oh, I
Club by
saw the
J.T. Pennington. Yeah, you saw the
oh, it's
trailer of
a
it.
book. I thought it was
Yeah,
a
it is
book.
a book. It is a book,
Yeah.
but it's called The Othello Club. So that's
Oh,
fabulous.
right.
And that's worth a read. And then a Canadian author. This is just because it's such a great plot, and that's The Retirement Plan, and it also deals with what an older community of retirees, and that's by Sue Hinson. So those three I've really enjoyed recently. Three debuts that are out last in 2025. But there's so many more. It's the problem with
It is.
the world now is the to be read list is endless, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
But also, it's just the fun part though of being an author, which I'm sure
yeah,
you're
yeah.
finding, is that when you start getting, whereas before you was trading around the bookshop, buying books and searching the
Yes,
bookshop, all of a
yeah,
sudden they just land on your bookshelf, on your doormat, and you're like, "Oh, I did
exactly.
not order a
Yeah.
book." You're being
Yeah.
sent books.
Yes. No, it is a luxurious position to be in, isn't it? It's
It is.
great. It's great getting books. Um, I don't know why it's exciting, but getting proof copies does feel exciting when you get someone else's proof copy.
Because it feels like you're being let into a secret,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also you can be a bit smug and say, "Look, I have got this 6 months before
Exactly.
anyone else will." So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that, but I love getting proofs. And I
Yeah.
love
No,
how
it
did
is.
you feel when you got both when you got your proof and then when you got the final copy? Have you had your final copies yet?
Yes, and they're behind me.
Oh, yes.
So
Oh, have
see the
you got different covers?
subtle product place, almost invisible. So yes, and strangely, the pink one is America, and the yellow one's Canada, and the blue one is the UK. So three different covers. And it's really
Oh,
interesting, isn't it, how different designers have responded to the
yeah.
book, and maybe it says something about the different way in which books are marketed in those countries. But so yeah, getting the I thought getting the proof was good, and it was,
Mhm.
but getting
It
the final copy felt absolutely amazing, and I don't know why, it just felt, "Oh, no, this is real," rather than
yeah.
just nearly real, so that felt, amazing, but I've only got one copy so far of the real finished book. I might get more, but at the moment, it's just
You'll
one.
get more.
Yeah.
It is a great feeling. I remember it sounds so ridiculous to say because obviously you can write, but I remember when I got the proof and then got the final copy of the Jigsaw Man, it's like, "Oh,
Mm.
I wrote a book." I know, and then
Yes.
I
Yeah,
said, "It's a real book." Like, what else is it
exactly.
gonna be?
I know, but yeah, there's something psychological, isn't it? It's what it's the you're seeing the product that other people will hold in their hands for the first
Yeah,
time, aren't you? Um,
exactly.
yeah, and it's no longer yours when it's out there as well, which
No,
is a relief as well, but also there's something poignant about that, that it's
it is.
gone.
It's gone out there, it's got wings.
Yeah, yeah,
I hope it
exactly.
flies.
Yeah.
Well, it just leaves me to say, MK Oliver, thank you so much for joining me for Conversation Coffee Break.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for watching the Conversation podcast. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you'd like to catch up on more conversations, you'll find them linked on your screen now. And you can also listen to the podcast on your favourite platform. See you there. Bye.